This is Greg Bohn with Building Code Education, and we're going to go over some typical sink installation problems that you may run across out in the field. First of all, we'll start off with this simple vanity sink. This is straightforward, code compliant. We can see an 1.5 inch or 1.25 inch tailpiece coming down and transitioning to an 1.5 inch trap, and then through the trap arm into the waste and vent. So this is a code compliant installation. Here is a drawing of the correct configuration of a waste and trap and vent system. We have our fixture here. We have the pipe that comes down to connect the fixture to the trap. That's called a tailpiece, and it's really important for us to know the names of all these different components. So if we write a correction list or notice that we can identify them by name and not describe what they look like. So next we come down to the trap here, and you can see these hash marks indicate the trap seal, or that's the water that's held in the trap, and what that does is prevent sewer gases from entering the house through the plumbing system. That trap connects to the trap arm, and it's really important that the weir, or the top of the trap seal right here, is below the entry to the vent over here. And so that allows equalization of pressure, so we don't lose our trap seal through siphonage. So the trap arm is then connected to the waste and vent system by a sanitary T. Here we have an installation done by a homeowner, and we have some kind of weird thing here, connection, don't know what that is, but what we do have, what we can see is that this is what's called an S-trap. And so remember, in that last picture we had our trap that came, and there's a trap arm that connected to the waste and the vent. In this situation, or this picture, the plumbing then dives back down. We call that a trap seal, and what that the problem with that is that there's a potential for siphonage, so we can lose that trap seal through siphonage because it's not protected by a vent. Here we have another example of a plumbing system that a homeowner built, and we have the trap here, and it comes up and it connects to a vent, but the vent is open to the building. It's not connected to a vent system that terminates in the exterior of the house. So again, we could get sewer gases entering the house through that plumbing system. Here we have a side-by-side comparison of vanity sink that in both these cases the tailpiece was not quite long enough to get down to the trap. So in this case they glued a piece of pipe on there. That is not a code compliant connection. You can go down to the plumbing store or the hardware store and get these little connections here to extend that trap arm in the appropriate fashion. Here we have another non-compliant installation. This is a flex pipe used as a tailpiece, not approved. And how do we know whether these components are approved or not? Well, they have a little shield or some kind of indication that they've been approved by a testing facility. And so here we have this little, you can see the shield there, and that tells us that this is a tested, listed component that complies with the specified standards. Here we have an installation that has a flex pipe here, and then we have this T, and it's a pretty good chance that if all these inverts are the same distance, same length, that this is probably not a listed component. It probably doesn't have a seal on it, and it's not a directional T, and so therefore it's non-compliant. And you might ask, well, why do they sell these non-compliant and unlisted components? And the reason is because people buy them. It's as simple as that. So here's a drawing of a typical kitchen sink installation. This is a two-compartment sink. Sometimes we see the single compartment, but most of them are two-compartment, and we typically have a disposer that's connected to one, and then a simple tailpiece that's connected to the other side, and they both connect together through directional fittings into one trap and then into the trap arm. The other part of this that we have to pay attention to is the drain of the dishwasher, which comes up. It's required to be connected through an air gap to the waste system. Here we have a kitchen sink, single compartment, and again we have that S trap. So tailpiece comes down, we have our trap, and then it dives back down. and creates that S-trap. The simple fix to this is just to extend the tailpiece down and then have your trap down here so that it comes up and it doesn't have to dive back down to hit the vent in the waistline. It's a straight across shot. Might also take note that the clean out right here is now obstructed by the new cabinet, so probably not very well thought out. Here's an installation. It looks really clean. Someone spent a little bit of time cutting all those pieces, putting that all together. The problem is that this waistline from the dishwasher is directly connected to the waist here, and that's supposed to be done through an air gap. And the reason that's a problem is because if we have a sewer backup and the waste comes through the trap like this, the first place it's going to go is into that dishwasher waistline, and there's a potential to have raw sewage enter your dishwasher, which is obviously a health hazard. And so that's why we have to connect those dishwasher drains through an air gap. Some people say they don't like to drill a hole in their granite countertop for the air gap. Some may say they want to put it up as high as they can under the deck. The code clearly states it has to be above the flood rim of the sink, so they need to be up there. It's really important. Here's a picture of a compliant sink. It's got, a 2-compartment sink. It's got one tailpiece here, connects to this other waistline that's coming out of the disposal through a directional T into the trap. So that's a good installation. Here, this probably is a good installation. It looks like we might have a little seal right there. The difference between the T we saw before and this T is that if this is a listed one, it's got these little internal fins that make these T's directional so the water flows down instead of shooting straight across. So look for that little shield that shows that it is a listed product. Pretty simple fix. Where the cord for the disposal comes out of the unit, it's supposed to have a cable clamp to protect it. It's going to look something like that. Fairly easy fix, something we should look for. This one is not super easy to see, but we have a trap here. Then we have another trap here, and they both connect on one trap arm, and the code says you can only have one trap per trap arm, so that's a prohibited installation. Have another picture of the exact same thing, different configuration or different layout. We have one trap here, another trap coming off the disposal, which we really don't need. This should just be an elbow and then another elbow that connects to this tailpiece, and then we have one trap. Instead, we have two traps that both connect to one tailpiece or one trap arm, which is a code violation. This, just wanted to point out that we see this sometimes if we have a water filtration system under the sink. This right here is a direct connection to the waistline. So this is a drain from the water filtration system, and for the same reason that we don't connect the dishwasher drain, we need to provide an air gap, and there are inline air gaps that are approved for this installation, but we have to take a look and make sure that there's an air gap so we're not creating a direct cross connection between the waste and domestic water source. This is looks like a code compliant installation to me. We have our tailpiece comes over, we have our outlet from the sink over here, disposal, directional T comes down, and we have our trap arm that enters the waste and the vent system. You can see we have our dishwasher drain line that goes up to an air gap and then comes back and connects. So that all looks good to me. So that's what we have today for a sink installation and trying to identify some problems you might run into out in the field. So if you'd like to see more, stay tuned. We'll be posting them as we develop them.